Podcast. I'm your host, Jamel Warney here, and we have a special guest today. I've been waiting for this for the last few weeks now. Uh, the assistant coach at Stony Brook, the assistant coach at Rutgers, and now the head coach at Fairfield, Coach Jay Young. How are you doing today on this fine? Is it Wednesday morning?
It is, what is today? Wednesday morning, yeah, in the U.S. it is. Wednesday
Mm.
morning.
And a beautiful day in Fairfield, Connecticut.
It's actually raining like crazy. We've got this hurricane, the remnants of one of the hurricanes that just hit the south coming up here. But it's all good, man. Everything's good. I appreciate you having me on the podcast so soon. Like I think I'm about your 60th guest. So, but I
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
you.
we have a lot to talk about this year. I mean, this podcast. Sorry. I want to start first with you at Marist, your college experience. It's funny because however long I've known you, I didn't know you played lacrosse at Marist. Do you want to talk about that?
You're selfish, so you don't know the people in your lives. So, but yeah, so I went to Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and when I was coming out of high school, I played football and basketball in high school. And just when I was coming out, decided to I was at a Catholic high school, was looking at some Catholic schools, and Marist was one of them. And just kind of like anybody else, decided to take a chance and go there. I didn't know a lot of people. It was mostly Long Island kids at the time, and New York kids, not a lot of kids from Massachusetts. So went there, and just wasn't good enough. I know you're shocked to hear this, but wasn't good enough to play Division I basketball at the time. I
You're
know that.
five. You're 5'6" on a good day. So I mean, I'm not pretty surprised, but hey.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for that. But still enjoyed kind of playing, and at the time, uh, I started rooming my freshman year, room with some guys on the lacrosse team, and just kind of started throwing the ball around with them, and really screwing around. Really didn't have any aspirations of playing, but slowly they kind of talked me about trying out for the team my sophomore year. Uh, And I did. And it's a lot of the same principles as basketball. A lot of the defensive stuff is the same. And actually, a lot of the offensive stuff is the same, too. So there's a lot of carryover between the two. And I enjoyed it and, kind of grinded away and ended up doing okay there at Marist and still have a lot of good friends off that lacrosse team and had a lot of fun, obviously, with those guys, too. So it was,
Oh,
it was a good experience. Yeah.
yeah. And I see right here that you were all conference selection.
First team.
First
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
Wow.
I don't know what your research department is like. Obviously not great, but yeah, first team all conference selection. Yeah.
A natural talent you are.
That,
So after you finished your lacrosse career, what kind of brought you back to you wanted to be a college coach or just a
right,
coach in general for basketball?
right. So when I was at Marist, my dad, growing up outside of Boston, my dad was a coach and an athletic director for a lot of years, for over 20 years. Matter of fact, the high school where he coached and was the AD at, the football field is named after him now. But so I grew up around it. As a kid, you going with your dad and your brothers to games, whatever games. He was always at school doing stuff, as most ADs are. Uh, and through my dad, got to know a lot of his colleagues and friends and coaches and ADs, and one of them was a guy named Jim Todd. And ironically enough, when I went to Marist, the assistant basketball coach there was Jim Todd.
Mm.
So he kind of kept an eye out for me. I ended up doing an internship with him in the basketball office. And, those days, if you wanted to go play pickup with the team or you wanted to go help them work, there wasn't the rules that there were now that you could do all this stuff. So it was great for me uh, because I just got, obviously love basketball and got to kind of stay involved in some aspects. So when I got out of college, I went back home and I lived at home like most college guys do, not knowing
Mm.
what to do, hanging out with my buddies. And
Ooh,
yeah, not good.
running the streets.
Running the streets. And Jim Jim Todd left Marist and took a job at Salem State College, which is a Division III school just north of Boston. And, called me up and asked me if I would be interested in coaching and wanted to be his assistant. So, I really, honestly, Jamil, didn't have a lot going on. It wasn't like my phone was ringing off the hook with offers.
Yeah.
I know you're probably shocked at that, but I thought it was kind of a cool idea. Didn't have any real idea that I was going to get into coaching at the time. But always knew I'd be in some way involved with athletics because, just through my dad and growing up with it and that type of thing. So, I think I got paid like $600, took a job as a substitute teacher at Peabody High School right outside of Salem, and would go over there, get abused as a substitute teacher. As you remember what you used to do when you saw us. So that's what was happening to me. And then, would go over in the afternoons and coach at Salem State. And that's when it kind of really started. And I really started thinking about, maybe trying to do this thing long term.
Okay, I like that. But I'm seeing here now, most of your coaching as an assistant was all the way in Northeast. It wasn't all in Boston, I'm pretty sure. You come back to Northeastern, then Newberry.
Right.
I mean, did you want to try to expand outside of your comfort zone, your geographic?
I never really thought about it that much. You kind of go where the offers are. So after I left, Salem State, I got an opportunity to be a grad assistant coach in Division I in Northeastern. I think Jimmy Todd was friends with the head coach, a guy named Carl Fogel at the time, and they were golfing buddies. So I always say that he must have lost a golf bet. That's how I ended up at Northeastern. But I got that opportunity, went to Northeastern and kind of volunteered really there for 2 years, just trying to get my foot in the door at Division I. Was a great experience. Got the first taste of the NCAA tournament because I was fortunate enough to be on the staff that went in '91. And we ended up playing North Carolina in the first round in the NCAA tournament when they had Rick Fox and Pete Chilcutt and Eric Montrose and King Rice and just a loaded team. So it was kind of cool. But that gig only lasted 2 years. At that time, the NCAA would only let you do that job for 2 years. That was like a rule. So I had to find another job, and that was Newberry College, and nobody wanted that job. That's how I got that job, So you just kind of take the offers the way they come and try and build your resume. A guy like me who's just trying to get in the business, he doesn't get to choose what jobs he's taking.
Where to go,
Yeah. So you try and make the most out of it. But no, and the good thing is my family was in the Northeast, so I got to kind of stay around them and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, it just kind of worked out that way.
Okay, and how was Newberg? Is Newberg or Newberry?
Newberry was a 2-year school at the time, right outside of in Brookline, Mass, right over by Boston College, very small junior college. And again, like I knew, it's all through connections of people. I knew the AD there, and they didn't have a gym. They didn't have. I don't even know if we had uniform balls, or it was like no one wanted the job. But it got at 20. I think I was 24, 25 years old. It gave me the opportunity to try and be a head coach and stay in the business, which was important to me. And it was awesome. I made the most out of it. Made great friends. I had a really good gig. I was the basketball coach, and I was, if you can imagine this, I was a resident director. So they owned property in downtown Boston. So I lived for free right off of Commonwealth Ave in Newberry, which is, as high rent district as you can get. And I watched a house of some college kids, which I was terrible at. I didn't even, did a bad job. I lived for free. And the biggest thing was the parking spot. I got free parking in downtown Boston. So, it was a lot of fun, and I got to, you get to be your own boss. You get to call timeouts. No one cares. No one's watching. No one knows if you make a mistake, and you get to figure it out, what you like, what you don't like. So it was like a big laboratory of, you could experiment with what you wanted to do, and it was a lot of fun. It really was.
And it's also big because as a JUCO, you probably meet a lot of interesting people, interesting players, to be honest. Do you remember
a lot of guys like you? Yeah, a lot of guys like you.
Do you remember any good stories about your days as a JUCO head coach?
We had so many of them. It was just craziness back then. My first year there, we had 6 guys on the team, and trying to get them to show up all the time. So we actually went to a trip in Connecticut with 6 guys, and somehow, I don't know how you could do this, we left one of the guys by mistake at home. So we got, yeah, there's only 6 guys, not difficult to count. So we're in a van, and we're halfway through, and someone said, like, where's Malik? I think it was, and we realized he wasn't on the van. So we get down there, and we play the game, and then a guy gets hurt. So we had to play with 4.
Oh my God!
For most of the second half, and because we forgot a guy. But there was, I mean, honestly, there was 1,000 stories like that with, just trying to get guys, and well, we had a lot of fun. I had a good group of guys. We were all in our 20s and hanging out with each other, and it was actually a great time, and a lot of laughs for sure when you look back at it.
How would you guys practice? Just 3-on-3? Just 3-on-3 full court?
We do it exactly. Yeah, we do a lot of 3-on-3. Exactly how we did a lot of 3-on-3. We had a manager. I'm trying to remember his name, because that happened to us a couple times where we had guys foul out, or we'd just didn't have enough bodies.
So you would play with the manager?
So what we decided to do was put a uniform underneath his regular clothes. He was keeping the book. And we thought it would be really cool if one of the guys fouled out, if he would just stand up and get undressed with a uniform underneath and check himself into the game. So I don't think that ever happened, but I know we were doing that at one time. He had a uniform underneath his street clothes when he was keeping the book, and we thought it was going to be neat if that actually happened.
It would have been perfect if you had a jersey under yours too, and just when they fouled out, it's your turn now. You were still at a pretty young age at the time, so.
Well, I remember one game. We were short of body, so we grabbed a kid off the football team. Osric was his name, and something happened during the game, and he had like a warm-up top over his jersey, and I told him to check in just because we needed a body at the time. And I remember he took off his warm-up top, and you know how your T-shirt underneath has to match the exact color.
Yeah.
He had like a Ben & Jerry's T-shirt underneath all these tie-dye shirts because no one checked his T-shirt, and the refs just started blowing their whistle because to make them take off the shirt. But no, that was a lot of fun. Thousands of stories just like that with some crazy times.
And then you took the next step again, going back to Northeastern.
Yeah, so I went back as a full-time assistant. Worked at Newberry as a head coach, and I had always run Northeastern's basketball camp, even though they had a couple coaching changes. So I always kind of stayed connected to Northeastern. And really just was right place, right time, which everybody kind of needs a break like that. And they hired a new coach. He wanted someone who was familiar with the Boston area, was familiar with Northeastern, got a chance to meet him, and ran his camp for him during the summer, and was fortunate enough that he hired me to be a full-time assistant. So that was really kind of a big break for me to get back on the road as a full-time guy, and kind of, get back to get on the road recruiting and get my first taste of Division I recruiting too.
A lot of people don't know how tough it is to recruit at a D1 level. Can you kind of explain that to the listener, or maybe 20 of us?
All you, Caroline, Ty, a couple of all three here. Yeah, man, but it's like anything else, right? You gotta get a break, and then you gotta make the most of it, and you make mistakes, you figure it out, you try and learn as much as you can. But rules were different back then too. We really didn't have a calendar like we did. We were out on the road an awful lot, and really I think the thing was trying to figure out what your boss liked and making sure that you recruited the guys that he liked and the guys, not necessarily the guys you liked. And then, building relationships. That's what recruiting is. It's all about building relationships and trying to make contacts and people trusting you. And so there's a lot of misses for sure. There's a lot more misses than there are hits in recruiting, or especially early on. But you just keep, like anything else, you just keep grinding and hopefully, make the contacts that you need to make, and people like your work, and that's really what it's about. But it's like any other profession, finding your way and trying to figure out the best way to do it.
Yeah, no, because back in the day, you guys didn't have the ESPN Top 100. You had to really focus on scouting services, right?
Yeah, we used a lot of the scouting services, and you know, there was. I know you're going to find this shocking. There was no internet back then when I first started, so you just couldn't log on. There wasn't the Twitter. There wasn't. So and you know, honestly, Jamil, you used your eye. You had to rely on what you thought
Yeah.
your intuition a lot more. And I think that helped. You know, just you really had to pay attention and watch. Um, and yeah, it wasn't what it was today for sure. But you know, I think that made me probably a better recruiter. Is some of those things that I didn't rely on, having to do just with your gut, with your intuition, and figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you also have to go off a lot of hearsay. A lot of people just saying like, oh, this person is really good, and then you go there and they're the opposite, and you just like feel like you had a wasted trip. But you always got to find a negative in that positive. So I mean,
Yeah, so
it's
many
tough.
trips is. Yeah, there's no doubt some of that happened. You go there, or he was good, but he wasn't just what you thought your boss wanted. You know, that was some of it too. You know, everybody who calls you as a guy that they like, but doesn't mean
Hmm.
it's going to be a great fit for the school, even though he could be a good player or your head coach. But yeah, there were certainly some trips that you went on and that type of thing. But you're right, relationships became important because there was a trust issue there because you were really
Yeah.
trusting evaluation of a high school coach or an AU coach. Um, and he had to trust you too, that you were going to take care of his guys. So I think that part of it, I probably miss out on that a little bit because of technology, a little less communication, and
Yeah.
you know, you were literally picking up the phone and dialing a number, you know, and you had
With
to,
with the
yeah, with
big
like a
phones
phone,
too.
yeah.
Ah.
You were actually had to. It was old school, and you had to take notes, and you had like a date planner and stuff that you wouldn't even know about any of this stuff. But
Nah, I mean, it
yeah,
sounds awful to be honest.
it wasn't too bad. I mean, I got through. I know sounds terrible, but I got through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's the old school. So, as you do your few years at Northeastern, did you realize that you wanted to go back to becoming a head coach? Obviously, that's everyone's dream, but some people like to stay in that like assistant coach spot. They don't want to have all the pressure of being a head coach and figure out
Right.
what to do. But did you understand like, okay, the next step is I want to become a head coach again?
Yeah, I think that was always my goal. You know, I loved working at Northeastern and loved being in Boston. It was awesome, and you know, when you're from there, that area too was really cool. But my goal was always, you know, once I got to Northeastern, I was really. That's when I started thinking, hey, this is it. This is what I want to do for a career, and
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna be a grind, and I knew I was going to have to make a lot of personal sacrifices too. But I was really enjoyed it. So my goal was to become a head coach, and then, you know, like, how do you kind of build your resume now, and what are important things to do? Well, one of those things was to get head coaching experience. I never wanted to be go into an interview down the road and say, well, you've never been a head coach. And even though I was at Newbury, I knew that would be important to get back to, you know, get more head coaching experience. So uh, a Division II opportunity opened up at the University of New Haven, and I knew some people there. I knew the football coach at the time, and he thought it would be a good opportunity for me. And like I said, like Northeastern, but I wanted to get back to being a head coach. Went down there, and the funny story about that is I did not get the job. So
Mm.
I went down, I interviewed, and I came in, like a lot of the jobs. I came in second or for the job, or, you know, always a bridesmaid, never a bride type of thing. And then so I went back to Northeastern. It was cool, and I still remember this, that in 2000 I ran the Boston Marathon, because you know what great shape and how competitive I am. I don't have to explain that,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I got done, got back to my house. I was living in Newton, right outside of Boston at the time, and my phone rang, and it was the football coach at University of New Haven. He just said, "Hey, you're not going to believe this, that the guy who we hired just left to take another job. He never even coached a game.
Oh
Just like
my
three,
God.
this is like 3 months later, and the AD is going to call you and offer you the job." So I was literally exhausted from running the marathon, and 2 hours later, the phone rang. The AD called and offered me the job, and I accepted the job.
Was it an awkward conversation?
Well, again, like you can't get caught up on how you get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most important thing, there are a lot of good coaches out there, and it's competitive, so
Cutthroat.
I was just cutthroat. So I was like, hey man, I'm not going to get my ego involved. I was their second choice. I didn't care about that. I was their choice now. And I was going to make the most of the opportunity. The tough part was really for Janet, my wife, leaving Boston, and her family was close, and she was a nurse at Boston Medical. So that was really tough on her, but thankfully she agreed to go with me. And
I feel like that's a demise of so many probably young coaches. I think at the time is that they feel like their first like roadblock of probably not getting a job or something not going their way, get fired, and they like burn those bridges and like lose those connections, which can further help them down the line. So I mean, some people really do have their ego and like kind of just it's hard to like separate the ego from like the finish line.
Yeah, no,
I
I agree with you. I think one of the things, and this is true with recruiting too, that when I got the call that I didn't get the job at New Haven, I understood and was very thankful for the opportunity to interview. I was better because of it, because I got a chance to opportunity, and I think the way I handled not getting the job, they didn't hesitate to offer me it when it opened. If I had done something differently, it probably would have cost a lot of pause, or they would have gone in a different direction.
Professional.
So you got to remove your your ego, and it's a competitive business. A lot of good coaches out there, and a lot of guys who want to do what you want to do. And if you're gonna do that, it's gonna be a short career. And the other part of it is you got to have, and unfortunately, you got to have a spouse or someone who's willing to go on the journey with you, because there's a lot of sacrifice that they have to make too.
A really big sacrifice. So, how was your first few years at New Haven?
Well, my first year in New Haven, I was a little bit like my first year at Newbury. We barely had any guys on the team. So you're not going to believe this, but I actually finished another game with 4 players so I've done this several times in my career. If there's a professional league that goes to 4 guys, I'm the head. I should be the coach of that team, because I have the most experience.
You'll find a way. You'll find a way.
Find a way. So it was kind of the same thing. You're just trying to build a program. And the weird thing, when I got to New Haven, we weren't in a league. It was a Division II independent job. So there was no league affiliation. So you would literally take a bus. You're trying to find games, and everybody in the Northeast is in a league. So you're just driving on these bus rides to play anybody: West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland. And when you're scheduling, you have no leverage. So you can't say, the guy would say, okay, we'll play you this year, but I'm not coming back there next year. Or they'd say, we can play on this night, and you might have a game on the night before, and you're just taking games to try and fill your schedule. So those first 2 years, we were not in a league. So that was really, really crazy. But then, we got into a league, we started recruiting, got some really good players, built the program, just kind of like you've been a part of it, right? You've seen this happen, and get the right guys on the bus. And in my, third and fourth year, we were able to go to the NCAA tournament, which they hadn't done in a while. And, it became, a great place to work. And quite honestly, I might have stayed there the rest of my life if I didn't have the opportunity to go to Stony Brook. I really enjoyed being the head coach, and again, was having a lot of fun, and the program was heading in the right direction.
Speaking of Stony Brook, your prime life. First, I guess I want to know, like, how did you and Coach Pikiell first meet?
Yeah, so just we had kind of been friendly for many years, just on the recruiting scene, right? You go on the road, and all these other assistants are there. You guys are all grinding. You're all young. You're all trying to get it. And as you know, Coach Pikiell's got a great personality. We became very friendly, and always kind of kept in touch. Always talked to each other when we were on the road. And we had another very good mutual friend named Pat Scurry, who's the head coach at Towson now. And we kind of connected always through him. So when Coach Peichel left George Washington to get the Stony Brook job, he was talking to Pat about someone he wanted to hire, a guy with some experience. And all of a sudden I became an older guy, which was tough. I was a younger guy about four years ago now, just a guy who had been around and that type of thing. And I had worked with Pat at Northeastern. So Pat was kind of like the broker of the deal and kind of got us together. And, at the time I knew if I wanted to be a Division I coach again, Jamil, that I'd probably have to go back to Division I as an assistant.
Yeah.
But wanted to be with the right guy, wanted to be with a guy who was up and coming. And Coach Peichel, certainly, and a great guy, as you know, he played for him, just checked off so many boxes for me. And Stony Brook was one of these, it's weird. We had gone over there and scrimmaged them when I was at New Haven, not knowing anything about Stony Brook. We went over and scrimmaged them. I was really impressed with the campus, it was the old arena at the time. And just kind of said, well, boy, this, they got some stuff over here that I was really surprised at. And then fast forward a year later, I think it was that same year that Coach gets the job and calls me up and asks me if I'd be interested in the job. So went over and just kind of, again, said, hey, I got to make this move to get to where I want to go. Wasn't like a Long Island, really didn't know anything about Long Island other than the Mets, and I hated the Mets, so I didn't really want to live on Long Island. But you got my wife to move again, and went over there, and I didn't have any idea what that job would be like, but it ended up, as you know, because you could be in a great place, awesome place to work, made so many friends there, and was there 11 years. Till you decide to go for 43 in the championship game, and then we moved to Rutgers about a week later.
I'm surprised. Long Island probably looked way different in 2005 than what it was in 2016. Did you have any favorite spot that you went to over the year, over the decade plus?
Favorite spot over in Stony Brook? You mean Port Jeff area?
Yeah.
I'm just like a simple dude, that. So I'm a burger and beer guy. So I like Tommy's. I just go down there. Any place on the water during the summer was really cool. I like going to Danford's, watching the boats come in, and get my blood pressure down because I can get excited a little bit. But that was a fun area. It was a great area. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there were so many good spots over there. I was just over there, believe it or not, for the first time in a long time because we had to go see a
Bittersweet.
Yeah, but the place has changed. I don't know, the place, a lot of different restaurants, a lot of different shops around there. But no, it was a really fun place to live, and still have a lot of good friends over there. People we just kind of met in the neighborhood and people we met in the community. So it was cool. I didn't think I'd be there 11 years, and I ended up being 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years. So I want to talk about, obviously, you guys start off slow at Stony Brook because just the GPA. You guys have scholarship. So I want to know about two recruits in particular, Brian Dewar and Tommy Brenton. I have to know. I have to know, how did you guys recruited Tommy and Brian? We can talk about Brian first.
So Brian, Brian, we as you mentioned, we had, I think 4 games our first year, 9 our second year, 7 our third year at Stony Brook. So you're being kind when you said we were off to a rough start. We were off to an awful start. And we all kind of, as you're doing this thing, Jamil, you're just kind of the type of kid that you want, the type of balance that you want on your team, the type of players you want. These are all discussions that just constantly go on, and the type of culture you want to build. So our third year there, going into year 4, we just really wanted, to get back to a certain character, certain type of player. Obviously a good player, as everybody's looking for good players, but we really wanted to kind of make sure we bring the right guys on the bus. And I saw Brian play one of the Hoop Group events, and I think it was a team camp. And I first saw him down there at the team camp and liked him. I mean, like you do as your guy too. So, he's not passing the look test like he's jumping out of the gym.
Yeah, 100%.
And, he's looked like he was 14 years old. But man, he had a great IQ and really understood how to play, which we needed. We needed, more guys who kind of understood how to play. And really shot it well, which is another thing we wanted to address. So just kind of circled his name and went back. And then I saw him. I went from there to an event at Ryder. I think that was an AAU event. So I think I went to a high school team event. Then I went to an event at Ryder. And I still remember this. They were playing the Morris Twins, whatever AAU team that was. You might even remember I forget what team they were, the Morris Twins. And Brian was running around and just bombing the Morris Twins. Like they had no respect for him, and I just remember them coming off a timeout. And Brian had like 30 on these guys. He was just going crazy, and they couldn't stop him. And I remember the Morris Twins getting in a big argument because I was standing over by their sideline about like, hey, someone's got to cover the white kid. He's killing us, Then, so I was really interested after I watched him in that performance, got to know his family really well. And his dad and mom too, just tremendous people. And then he was going out to Vegas, but I wasn't going. I was going to Orlando. And Coach Peichel was going out to Vegas and was going to see him for the first time. And I was kind of pumping Brian up. So I said,
wait, was he on a hot shot at this time?
Yes, yeah. So, they're not playing in the main event. They're playing They're like Gym 72 in Henderson. Like you remember those days. So I said to Coach, Coach, you got to do me a favor. You got to watch him before you call me and tell me what you think. You got to watch him play 3 times. You got to see him play 3 times, because if you walk in the gym and watch him warm up, you're probably going to fire me, like saying, what are you sending me? What's this guy look like? And then he called me after he watched him play 3 times and said he was perfect, great, loved him. And then just kind of went from there, getting him up for a visit. And Brian didn't say much back then. He doesn't say much now, but he was really the first piece of what Stony Brook really turned into. Brian was a huge piece of him saying yes. I said was like the kind of the dominoes that set off the rest of the program.
It's funny because I remember it might have been Brian senior year when him and his team was in states and they were just dominating team. And I was at every state game with my AA coach Mike Keller. I'm just like, he's got to be going high D1 right now. He's probably he's probably one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. And then everyone's like, oh no, he's on the Stony Brook. I'm just like, what's that? Like, who like, is that D2?
Right.
And to fast forward it and see how like the time happened. It's funny to just see that. So
I remember that run because I was ironically I went to obviously Coach Peichel's press conference at the RAC. The time that he and I were both at the RAC before that was for Brian's state championship game. So we went to the RAC.
Amazing.
We went to the RAC for a state championship game, which they won. And the next time we were in the RAC was for Coach Peichel's press conference. We got the breakfast job.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I want to know. What were your thoughts about Tommy? Because I knew Tommy for the 1 year we had, and obviously we talked sometimes over the years, but just obviously his personality is one of a kind, and his skill set was one of a kind too. So can you explain more about what kind of dynamic he brought to your team?
Yeah, Tommy was the most, and I say this to this day, the most unique player I've ever coached. Probably one of the more unique personalities I've ever coached. And the connection between him and Brian being great friends too really helped the chemistry on the floor too, because those guys were so tight. And Tommy came later. Brian was one of the first guys to commit, and Tommy came in the spring. But I credit Dan Ricard for kind of, I guess, discovering Tommy, because Tommy played at Hargrave Military, and they were loaded, Jamil. They were just loaded. And Coach Peichel, I remember Coach Peichel and Dan went to see him practice after one of our games down there. I think we were playing UMBC, and they just drove to see Tommy practice. And they came back, and obviously Tommy did some stuff that you liked in practice, but he never shot the ball, never tried to score. And so it's different, right? And scoring, we were looking for someone who could kind of make some baskets at the time, and it's difficult for you to kind of believe in a guy who averages 2 or 3 points a game. I'm sure it was more than that, but he really never looked. He was so unselfish. So what happened was, I don't know if we had offered him at the time. I kind of forget how the sequence goes, but Tommy was up at Fordham University playing in this national championship for prep schools. So it was all the powerhouses. It was the Brewsters, the New Hamptons, the Putnam Sciences. I don't even know if Putnam was the powerhouse back then, but it was all the heavy hitters on the prep school scene.
Yeah.
And Tommy's team, like I said, they ended up winning the whole thing. It tells you how good that they were. So I went with Coach Peichel the first night to see him play. I don't know if Dan was with us or not, but they never took him off the floor. That was the one thing that always, with all these guys, Jamil, that they had all these high major guys that were going everywhere, Tommy never left the floor. And Kevin Keats, who's now the head coach at North Carolina State, was his prep school coach.
Yeah.
And that always kind of stuck out to me. And you got a glimpse of some of the stuff that he could do.
Yeah.
But you still didn't get the whole package. But he was guarding the best player on the other team, and the best player on the other team was a high major kid because there are probably 50 high major guys in this tournament. Yeah. So I went back the second night again. I think Coach was with me the second night. Watched him again, and still just kind of really tough to come away with a great evaluation on him because the guy's not shooting at all, not even looking to score. And then we were playing somewhere, and I think I went back the third night by myself to watch him. And really, it was just a matter of, I love some of the things. And again, a lot of credit to Dan with this that he did, but I don't think any of us knew what we were getting at the time. Yeah. I didn't. We loved how hard he played. We loved the way his feel for the game. And again, we were trying to address IQ at the time. There's no question about that. And the fact that he defended, I really like that, but I think all of us would be lying if we said, fast forward 5 years later, that we had a guy, in my mind, he's the only player that I've ever been around who could dominate a game without scoring a basket, and, he was just a unique kid and a unique player.
Yeah, I think kind of put light on the glue guy situation, like the glue guy player. Like back in the day, people weren't happy if you got 7, 6, and 8, but you put that in a 40-minute college game, he's helping your other valuable scorers get easy buckets. And I know with my first year there, he spoon-fed me a lot of points, and
right.
And he did a lot of stuff on the court that, even though it didn't show up in the stat sheet, it helped win games. And with you guys, again, Tommy and Brian Dewar, you guys started improving your wins, and you started getting into the deep of the America East tournament, and that's where it all started.
Well, the other guy who came at that same time was Muhammad El-Amin.
Yeah, Mo, definitely Mo.
We hired Lamar Chapman, who bought him with him from Michigan. And again, Mo, it was like a puzzle that you put together, right? And Mo was became like he finished the puzzle, because you had the cerebral point guard and Brian, who could really shoot and good IQ, and Tommy, we just talked about him, how unique he was. And Mo was the bucket, right? Mo was the guy who could go get yourself a bucket at any time, any point. You didn't have to call a play for him at all. And a big guard, and ended up being the MVP of the league his senior year. And then you throw in another guy like Dallas Joyner, who
a crazy recruiting class. Were they all in the same recruiting class?
Yes, they were all in the recruiting class. it's funny. There was another kid in that class named Kelvin Martin. I don't know if you remember that name. We might have talked about him.
The lefty, kind of lefty?
Yeah, I think
bigger
it was
guard?
the lefty. I can't. And he originally verbally committed to us too, and then got out of it because he was he was a kid from Georgia, and he ended up, I think, being defensive player of the league and MVP of the league at whatever the conferences they played down at College of Charleston too. Wow. Charleston. So even without him, it was an incredible class. And again, that was the springboard for all the success that they had at Stony Brook.
Yeah, and then you made that fateful call, and it might have been 2011. You called some 3-star out of Plainfield, New Jersey. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that's really a dark moment and chapter in my life that I was trying to forget. Yeah, so I'm trying to think I think it was Kevin Dewar, Brian's dad, maybe had seen you play at one of the tournaments and gave me a call on you, and then followed up with our guy Mike, who we were close with because of Brian's recruiting, and it just I don't remember where the first call I'm sure you were not interested in hearing it from Stony Brook, or had no idea who the hell I was at the time, or who even cared. So I'm sure it was a short phone call, but slowly, and we built a relationship. When we had a relationship already built in with the Dewars and with Mike, and you were not the most. Conversation was not your strong point back then, so it wasn't an easy guy. You weren't an easy guy to recruit, but so that was one of the first calls your junior year, and then we went and saw you play and kind of took it from there. I think I was maybe the last guy to see you play out of the staff. I think maybe Dan went down first. You might remember, and then Coach Peichel, and maybe me. I don't know how the sequence.
I'm pretty sure Dan came to see my game. I'm pretty sure you called me first, and then Dan went and saw my first. I think it was my state game my junior year. But I remember, I think it was like a foregone conclusion that I was gonna go to Rider. I was gonna verbally commit sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. And then out of nowhere, I get a 6-3-1 call from you. I'm just like, hey, you're not gonna wait a couple weeks now. It's whatever. And then
you were close. We were behind. We were late to the party a little bit. Yeah, we were late to the party, and I remember telling Mike that we need to get you up here. So Mike did us a solid, and he threw you in the car. I'm sure you slept the whole way. You're probably pissed that you would have to come take a visit to Stony Brook, and then we got you up here, and I think that you walked around and were just, you can answer this. You're probably surprised at how nice it was and what we had going on, and that's kind of opened the door for us there. But you're right, we were late to the party with that one.
Obviously, was as seen from far how you guys took care of Brian Dewar, and talking to him about those times, I was like, I might need to check it out. And then when I committed to you guys, that's when the fun really begins. And I want to skip. I want to talk about our freshman class though, because I feel like that was on par with was it 2017 recruiting class or 2008? It was one of those years. Right. With Carson Purefoy, me, Ahmad Reed, Ryan Burnett, and Ken Mitchell coming in kind of in January. What was your thought about that recruiting class?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that you're right. There was these two different huge recruiting classes that we had, right, that kind of backed up. And I said we at the mid-major level where it's tough to kind of retain guys and keep them. We were doing that, which is a credit, obviously, to Stony Brook, the place it was, and Coach Peichel. And it was always like the passing of the torch, right? Dallas kind of gave it to you, and then Brian left and Trey came in, and so there was always kind of building on one class from another. So you're right. That class that you ended up being a great class for 4 years. And then we built around it too with, guys who were in the transition from both classes, guys like Eric McAllister.
Yeah.
And then Ray came. When did Ray come?
Ray came my sophomore year, but I think he was a red shirt. Yeah. So over my freshman year, we had me. The people who were really playing a lot of minutes were me, Carson, And then we started the older vets, Dave Cooley, Anthony Jackson, Marcus
Right.
Rouse, Lenny
And
Hayes, Eric
those
McCollum.
guys had kind of paid their dues with that other group. Those guys were kind
Yeah,
of back. That other group paid their dues. And yeah, those are great names because like guys like AJ came in and sat behind Brian Dewar for 2 years, and then came in and had really good 2 years for us. And Dave Coley, same thing, was a backup, and then got to play once those guys left. So there was a really good transition from one class to another. And those kind of bridge guys, the guys who necessarily weren't quote the stars, but were great players around you, those were just as important as some of the guys who got all the notoriety like you and some of the other guys. But they meant a lot, and they were all really good players too.
yeah. And we lose to Albany in the semifinals my freshman year, and then sophomore year. What a great year! I think you and me had problems every other day. I think you kicked me out of maybe a combined of 15 practices that year.
That's Coach would have kicked me out if I kicked you out of 15 practices. I would have been the next guy gone for sure if I kicked you out of that many. I think I booted you out of a few, and well deserved. First of all, you probably should have been booted out of 15, and you only got booted out of 2 or 3. That's probably accurate.
I think the funniest me getting kicked out story was we were doing individuals, so you have us doing mic-ins, and I'm just going through the emotions. I'm just layup. I might be missing layups too. It is what it is. And you blow your whistle. You say in some choice words, "Get out!" And I grab the ball, and I throw it through the other door. And oh my God, it just to see how far we came for those times is amazing.
I remember Coach Piker walking in, and this I remember that. I think I remember you tossing the ball, but I think Coach walked in like that was right at the beginning, wasn't it? Right,
yeah, it was.
Yeah, didn't even start.
I was there for at least 5 minutes, and then
right. Done. So at least you're smart. If you're gonna get thrown out, do it in the first 5 minutes, right? Don't wait till the last 5. So
you definitely made me come back the next morning.
I did. I made you come back the next morning. So, I can remember Coach walking in like 10 minutes later, and I just saw him, and his head was on a swivel, like looking for you. And I forget who he asked at the time, like, "Where's the dip? Where's the dip?" And I don't know who was our director of ops at the time. Was it
Ricky Lucas? Ricky Lucas.
And I think Ricky must have said to him, "Yeah, Coach Young threw him out," and just the look on his face, like, "What the hell is he doing?" And I remember talking to him after practice, and I said, "Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get him back." And that was like our relationship, right? We were like boyfriend and girlfriend that we'd make up quickly. And I remember just texting you after it. I didn't say a whole lot, and I just said, "I'll see you." I think it was 7 a.m. the next day.
I'll see you at 6. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, and you just hit me back. All right, and then came back at 6, and we knocked it off.
I do want to. I wish we could talk about that more, but I also just want to talk about that special season, 2015, 2016. Kind of, I think that's probably one of the best teams that we had as a university, as a college. Do you had any funny stories or fun stories about that year?
You're talking about the championship year, or I get my year screwed up, or the year before?
Yeah, championship year.
So help me out with this, because I'm getting old. So I remember this. That was the year we won like 18 in a row, right? At one point, was that?
But before that, we take the Euro trip.
Right, we take we take the trip to we go to Munich, and then to Italy. And you didn't want to be out of the country. You were cranky the whole time.
It was 10 long days.
Yeah, man. Just like we wanted to go see. I don't know where we were going in Rome, and I asked you to hey, why don't you come take a walk? We're to go see. Everything in Rome is just overwhelmingly historic and exciting. And you were like, I I think I'm going to go play video games in the room or something like that. Like, I wanted to kill you. But that was the year, right? We start off at Vanderbilt and lose in overtime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Same year, right?
Yeah, but we're on a high horse. Like we just lost to Vanderbilt by like 3.
Right. We're losing overtime to Vanderbilt.
You was so pissed at me because I gave up an offensive rebound to Luke Cornett to pop out 3 to Riley LaChance.
That's right. And Trey tied it. Trey tied it at the buzzer in regulation. Then we go.
Yeah.
Then the next, like 2 days later, we play at Western
Kentucky. Oh.
And Lucas gets hurt, right? Lucas doesn't play because he gets hurt versus, and we lose again on a close game.
Yes.
Then I think we come back, we win a couple, and
then we lose to Northeastern.
Yeah, so we lose to Northeastern, and do we get pounded at Notre Dame or something early too? Was that same?
Oh yeah, it was when I think at the Vanderbilt game. So we're like we're feeling ourselves, and who was there at the like after our shoot around who was just like pumping us up? He was it might have been Fran Priscilla, and he was just like he was just like, you guys can take him, like you guys are really good, you guys got it. Like, just keep on playing hard. You guys gonna be in the tournament, no problem. And then we go out and lay an egg against Northern.
Right. So this is what I remember off that trip that year, and a lot of funny stories off that year. But we got back off the Northeastern trip, and you're right, we got beat pretty good. And they were good, but
really good.
We were awful and not playing well. And I think we had a losing record at the time.
I wouldn't take it that far.
Well, we had lost to Vanderbilt. We had lost to Notre Dame. We had lost to Western Kentucky. So we probably did have a losing record at the time, because that was still in our non-conference early. And I remember getting off.
You're forgetting we played like 8 D3 teams.
Yeah, we played like 1 that year. But anyway, whatever it wasn't going well. So we get off to Northeastern, and coach is miserable, just miserable. We got this good team coming back, the team that lost in the championship last year, and everybody's picked us. There's some pressure, and we got off to a bad start, and it could have been a great start. We get off to a bad start. So we get back to campus at Stony Brook, and you guys are never part of these meetings because you just get to go home, and he wants to meet, and it's late. It's already late when we get back, and he wants to meet in the film room with the coaching staff. And I've made this mistake myself. You're emotional, and no good ideas really come out of those meetings, right? When you're emotional and you've just So we sat around to, I don't know how early in the morning. It was the next day, and finally got home. I'm sure 1 or 2 in the morning, and coach was like, we got to get this thing around. We're not going to have like a good year, and what's gone wrong. We spent the money to go to, all this stuff that everybody's chipping in. And then we went off, and after that, I think that's when we started. Was it 16 or 17 in a row? What was that?
I think 17 or 18.
Yeah, 17 or 18 in a row, and have the longest winning streak in the country.
We're just rolling through conference play too, and then everyone kind of get big headed. And I mean, as it happened, you're 18, 19, 20, 21. You're on ESPN as the number 1 winning streak in the country. You're bound to get big headed. And then well, I think I'm gonna ask you, what was your emotion like during that week of the tournament, the America East tournament?
It was, so we go into that tournament again, and you had played in 2 championship games, and we had yet to win one. And I'm like, not to make your head any bigger than it is, but I'm like, we've got this iconic player, and we can't let him go out with a championship. And, certainly wanted to win for all the guys. And then I wanted to win one for coach too, because he had been so close before. So, when there is some pressure on you, especially when, you've gone that game before and you haven't been successful, but, every team in the league would kind of want to do what we did over the last 6 or 7 years. But the one thing that was missing, obviously, off that was an NCAA tournament. So you get to that game, and everybody knows how it started. We're down, we play awful. Then we're down at halftime. What was it, 14, Jamil? Was it 14?
I think we were down 10 at halftime, and then
10 at halftime.
With 15 minutes left in the second half, we're down 15.
Yeah. So I remember just like everybody's a little stunned, right? Everybody's like, and you can't be honest. And
You can hear a
right,
pin drop in that arena.
right. And, everybody says, well, you don't get that feeling like here, you try and block that out, but everybody's like, oh my God, this can't be happening again, that we'll get to this game and we're not successful. And, I think, again, credit to coach, who's pretty positive at halftime.
Yeah.
I even think I was positive, if you remember, and that was a rarity.
Which was insane. Yeah.
Right. So I was trying to trick you guys, and then whatever came over you in the second half, and the other guys, you went berserk, and next thing you know, we're cutting down the net in a great day. That was a lot of fun that day.
It was a lot of fun, and then obviously we go to the NCAA tournament and we get good old Kentucky draw. We had to play Kentucky, and did you have that scout? I
did.
Think you did
Yeah.
have that. Yeah. Oh my God, and just like I just remember.
I did a bad job.
Kind of. I mean, we were sagging off Isaiah Briscoe, and then we just let him go a straight line to the rim.
Yeah, I know he's making threes on us.
Yeah.
Oliver, who's the kid? Tyler Ulis, right?
Ulis, yes.
We couldn't even get the ball over half court. The guy was
my God, he was just such a ball hawk, and he was the DPOY in the SEC as 5'7", 5'8". Against ridiculous. It was crazy, but just the experience being there. How do you feel? Because we were probably kind of like one of the hot stories in America at the time. We CBS. We was there for a few hours. Obviously, a lot of people had us as like the upset favorite against that team, which, I mean, you saw us as the whole year. It was obvious we could have done something. Just the matchup kind of wasn't right. How did you feel like about those like few days that you had to like enjoy that moment and just soak it in?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great for the community. The community was going crazy. I remember the next day. This is how big it was. I stopped at the same Dunkin' Donuts every single morning for like 14 years, right, to get a cup of coffee on my way to Stony Brook. And I'd always have something Stony Brook shirt on. And the day after we won the tournament, I knew I was big time because I got a free coffee for the first time. So it was great for the community, and it was the perfect storm with us playing Kentucky because of the publicity that we were getting. Yeah. And even though it wasn't the Kentucky, the great teams, the 1 or 2 seeds that going in, it was, Jamal Murray and
we're still really
right,
good.
Right, really good team. So it couldn't have been better from a publicity standpoint, and for an exposure standpoint for you and for the university. Mm-hmm. I think you know about this stuff, but when we clinched, we were for a couple hours like the number 1 trending search on
100%
on Twitter, because no one knew what Stony Brook was till we went to that NCAA tournament. So it was, you can't even put a price tag on that type of exposure. And playing Kentucky was great. And I remember we defended them really well in the first half. They had we just couldn't score.
And then when they started scoring, yeah. we just still couldn't score.
Exactly. So I remember the first half, we kind of did what we wanted to do defensively. We just, obviously there was different type of size, and you had the great game against them too. I thought that helped you a lot. They ended up double teaming you, and but yeah, it was a great weekend and a great run there that we had, and I was happy for everybody. Happy for everybody who had worked so hard to get there.
Yeah. So after that, it was kind of a hectic few days after that, you would say, with so much turnover, with Coach Pike going to Rutgers, and just like so much uncertainty going on with everyone in the coaching staff, and then you ultimately joining Coach Pike's at Rutgers. What kind of led you to that?
Well, honestly, what led me to it is I didn't get the job at Stony Brook. So I needed a job, like I was either going to go with Coach Pike or I was going to be out of work. So, it was a wild time, and I tell this funny story to everybody. I knew Coach was, Coach and I grabbed like a cup of coffee the next morning when everybody was sleeping, and I knew he was involved with the Rutgers job, and a couple other people interested in him, as they should have been. I just never really spent enough time with him to get the details of, hey, I'm going here this time, I'm going there this time. We talked very generally about the next few days. So when we got off that bus on Friday night, Jamil, I knew he was going to meet with Rutgers. I didn't know when, where, whatever. I didn't realize it was going to be Saturday morning, next morning. So my wife was up in Boston. First day I slept in, and like slept in for me is like 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, man, this is going to be a great day. I got the dogs. The dogs want to go for a walk. It was like a nice day. Grab my cup of coffee, and I leave my cell phone on the kitchen table, and just I'm out for like an hour and a half with the dogs, just enjoying the day. Like, feel great. We're just coming off the Kentucky thing. And I get back, and I'm just kind of screwing around the kitchen. I hear the cell phone just keep buzzing, and it's buzzing like I'm saying, this is weird that I'm getting so many texts. And I get my phone, and there's like 50 messages from people that coach had taken the Rutgers job. And I'm like, oh my God, this is nuts. This is just nuts. And like I said, I knew he was going to meet with them. I just didn't know it was that next morning. There's so many people around on that trip, as you remember. It's just difficult to really get some quality time to talk. So I just didn't know it was the next morning. And it happened so quick. And I don't think coach even realized that it was going to happen that quick. It just did. So, yeah, it was wild.
It's insane because I remember, like, obviously you hear whispers during the season. We're on a winning streak, hot, we're winning a couple games. So you hear Coach Pikiell's name get linked in with a couple high major teams. But I remember vividly, like after that, I knew something was going to change, but I didn't know like it was going to happen that fast.
Right. I don't think anybody did. I don't even know if coach did. I really don't. It just happened that quickly.
Yeah.
So, it was wild. It was wild. So I wasn't shocked that he was going to Rutgers. I was shocked at when it happened and how quickly it happened, and then, as you said, it was, kind of chaotic week or so after.
It's hilarious though. I think me and Tyrell and Aquazi were talking about this on the last podcast. Like every time
listened to that.
Every time we had another meeting, we got a text message, another meeting. Coach Young, another meeting. Dave Van Dyke, another meeting. Coach Ricard, another meeting. It's just, every time it was like y'all was getting voted off the island and going with Pikes to Rutgers. So it's just like all right, who's
like Survivor? Yeah, it was like Survivor. We just
it's funny because I think after you guys had your goodbye speech and all that, like maybe 3 weeks later, Rich was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to Rutgers now too," and I was like, "Wait, what?" They're taking everybody, and I remember you, me, Brian Dewar, and Carson Purefoy went up to see Pikes at his press conference at Rutgers.
Right. Yeah, we took the van.
Yeah, like I think just on a personal level, you guys, your friendship, and just like you guys known each other for a long time now. Like, what was your feelings to that? Like, you had to be really excited for that.
I was super excited for him, and I thought Rutgers obviously made a great choice, and he was the perfect guy to build the program because he had done it, at different places and been around it. And Rutgers at the time, and you remember it because you're from New Jersey, was really neat in need of
a laughing stock. Yes,
really in need of the right guy, and I thought that they found it. I was happy for him and Kate and the whole family because that's, he would always talk to me about being in a place where he thought he could win a national championship. That was his ultimate goal. And I thought eventually I knew he would get there, and he did. So I was really happy for him and all his hard work. And we had been through a lot together with wins, losses, personal stuff, a lot of that stuff though. So it was a great day. It was a lot of fun, and to have the Jersey guys there, you and Trey, to have them was cool too, because coach would be the first one to tell you it's about the players. That's how he got there. If you don't have the right players and the right people, you don't get to where you want to go. So he'd be the first to tell you that.
Yeah, and then a couple of days later you join them, and then you guys are off to try to rebuild Rutgers. Can you tell me the first few months of being at Rutgers? First of all, what's the first few months of getting a new job? You have to like live in a hotel,
Right.
rental car probably. Like, I mean, obviously you're so close, you probably use your own car, and just it's chaotic. And like, how do you feel about that? Like what did you do to like kind of ease your time in?
Well, it was it was like being tasered. You just like it just everything hits you, right? That you got to move now to New Jersey, and you've been in a place 11 years, Jamil. It's not like you were there 3 years, so you have so many personal relationships with people at Stony Brook, like all the people who work there and all the friends that you made, and your wife is emotional like crazy. Now you are the positive is that you're going with the guy that you work with 11 years, so that it's
Yeah.
not like I had to pick up and we had so many great relationships with Coach and his family, but it was still moving to New Jersey. It was still moving to Rutgers is unknown. So it's just people think that you pick up and you just get there. Well, there's the whole personal aspect that they forget about,
Yeah.
like with your family and that type of stuff. So it was emotional leaving Stony Brook, but again, I say this all the time. Rutgers turned out to be probably the best 3 years that I needed for myself professionally. And I met so many fantastic people at Rutgers. There actually are really good people in New Jersey, and uh, and just so many great relationships, and being part of a build and best conference in the country was really, really cool. So when you look back on it, you had a lot of ups and downs and some disappointments, but it all kind of worked out, like it should have. Like it should have. I got a great job and spent 3 unbelievable years at Rutgers that were a lot of fun, and but it was. I remember that first practice, man. I remember like calling my wife and like saying, "Oh my God, like this is not going to be good." And you look up at the banners, right? You're working out and you're looking up at the banners and you see Indiana and Michigan State and Michigan, and you're like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
one bad week. Oh,
Right.
we're playing against a lot of NBA prospects and a lot of like 4-year like really good players.
Yeah, it was crazy how good that league was, and still is, obviously. But it worked out great. Ended up having 3 really good years in New Jersey, and fortunate that my time finally came and I got a shot at this thing.
Yeah, it is cool to see that even though you didn't get the Stony Brook job, you went to Rutgers, and with that kind of exposure now too. Um, ooh, I think we lost you. Oh, no.
No, I'm here. I'm
Okay.
good.
With the exposure from being in the Big Ten, you kind of get linked into all the success stories about Rutgers. Obviously, the first few years there, you guys are losing a lot of games, but you guys are kind of playing the style of Pike's toughness, rebounding, defense, and it was great to see people kind of embrace you as the new defensive guy who's even you have a lot of good defensive players in me, what 2-time DPOY. So
Oh boy,
uh,
boy, boy.
Miles Johnson, whole bunch of great defenders. But a lot of people started to kind of put you on notice as kind of a defensive guru, and then your time finally came with Fairfield. And obviously everyone was elated when we heard the news of you and Fairfield, or you finally getting offered to go to Fairfield, and even a lot of people at your press conference too. A lot of people from maybe Rutgers, Stony Brook. I remember
Yeah,
I drove up from New Jersey to see it.
yeah. That
Can you
was
tell me about the
the biggest surprise was you actually getting in the car and driving to New Jersey. I think I had told you I'd take you out to lunch
Yeah, no,
after.
you said you think about the lunch, and so I was like, okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
I want to know because I haven't like really I wasn't in depth with the thing. What was the process like for you and Fairfield to kind of intertwine?
Well, when the job opened, I thought it would be a good match for me because it was a job that was in New England. It was a job that I was familiar with. I had a niece that actually went to school here, and then I had a relationship with the athletic director, which was huge. I
Hmm.
certainly wouldn't be here without that relationship with him. But that relationship, gets your foot in the door because he gets to witness what you did firsthand, right? It's like anything else. You got an advantage because he saw your daily work when I was at Stony Brook. But by no means did that get me the job. Then you got to go get the job, right? So it was going through the whole process, search committee, a couple times up here interviewing, meeting the president, the whole grind of just trying to get the thing. And again, these things are so competitive, and I got a really good job, which makes it even more competitive. So, it was, a lot of sleepless nights, wondering if you answered this question the right way, that, and all the things that go through your head as you're trying to get these things. And fortunately for me, like I said, I was able to get this job and get a really good job.
Yeah. And so you get there your first year and you see improvement. You guys finished 8th in the standing, but it's your first get at it as a D1 head coach. Like every day probably felt like a blessing for you and a privilege to lead the young men into battles and teaching them a way of life. So I want to talk about your COVID year. It was kind of a weird year for you. You guys finished 7th, but you guys make it to the finals against Rick Pitino and Iona. Like
right.
that's a crazy story and a crazy, like, you guys like tough through it. Like a lot of people probably didn't. A lot of people like wanted to go home at like late in March, but you guys just said, we're going to try to track the world here and try to get to the tournament. And for that to be your first step, like 2 years in, and you're already knocking on the door of finals, and you're versing a legend in Rick Pitino. How did you feel about that?
Well, it was a crazy year, as you mentioned. It was a crazy year in college basketball, not just for me, but after your first year of the program, there's usually some turnover, and we had that. So we recruited some new guys. So I think 8 of our scholarship players were new last year. And then there's no summer, right? COVID hits and there's no summer. So there's no chemistry, there's no building, there's nothing going on. And we get back in September, and again, just kind of get slammed with COVID issues on the team, on the campus, like a lot of people. So our ability to practice was really hampered. I mean, we were just no consistency in practice and very limited practice time with 8 new scholarship guys. So I thought the start of our season, and 2 of our better players were also ineligible at the time with Zach and Jake, because the NCAA didn't change the rule till about 9 games into making everybody work. So it was chaotic is the best word I use. And you're getting tested every 3 days, and your phones, you're waiting at night because the test results come in at night. So I'm up at like 2:00 in the morning and like watching the ticker, watching your phone. Okay, he's in negative, he's in, and like, okay, we're good for tomorrow. And anyway, it was, and I've said this too, probably a really poor job by me trying to do too much with too many new guys and limited practice time. So although it was super frustrating, we got off to a 2-11 start, and I was like super frustrated, really more myself than the team. I didn't think our talent was bad. I thought we were just disconnected, didn't have a lot of cohesiveness. And I thought if we could just get practice, and you've kind of been around me, like we value practice. It's what we do. It's what we need to do. And it's the grind. It's the torture of practice that I love. And once we got in a rhythm of doing that, we kind of changed the direction of our season, and we started playing better. And I think we finished 8-4 to finish the season. But going into that tournament, we were playing pretty good basketball. And I thought that if things broke right, all the stuff that needs to go right for you too.
Yeah.
You need to get the right matchups. You need a little luck. You need the little tournament fairy dust to fall on you, and then the ball bounced the right way. But I thought we were good enough to go down there and win that thing. I really did. A lot of things were going to have to go right. But we as a group on the bus, heading right before we got down there, said, we're coming back with this trophy. We're not coming back to, there's no moral victories. There's no we got one goal, and that's to come back with this trophy, and we fell short of that. So I'm really proud of the run that we made and how well we played, and it was a great week. But I tell everybody that's not what we wanted. We went down there to do. We went down there to win that tournament. Now we got to get back there and try and win that game again.
Yeah, that's all about, just trying to get better and try to improve. And one day you're gonna, host that championship up. Hopefully, it's with Fairfield. And I have one last question. It's kind of a fun question for me.
I was going to say, because everybody has turned this off about 10 minutes. So you and I are just like talking to each other right now.
It's pretty much just a FaceTime now. But Bernie gonna watch this, so he want to soak every minute up. I just want to ask this last question. In your whole life of coaching, I want to hear your starting five of everybody, your all-time starting five.
Well, some of these guys you might not know.
It's your starting five.
Oh, boy. As a head coach or as an assistant?
As a coach.
Boy, oh, boy. I only got five.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to start off.
I'll give you a six-man, too.
I'm gonna hurt some guys' feelings because there's so many good players I've coached, but I'm gonna go. Let me start. Oh boy. See, now this is a question where some guys gonna be mad at me. Some guys gonna be mad.
They gotta be mad at you. They might not watch this though. So
I'm gonna say. Boy, I had some good players. I had a guy at New Haven who was Player of the Year in the conference named Iz Caro. He was super talented, a great player. A transfer from Creighton. I'm gonna put him on it. I mean, I could go back to my Newberry days. It's all kind of. I'm gonna do. Oh boy. I'm gonna say BD, Tommy, you. I'm gonna need a Rutgers guy on there because I love Rutgers. I'm gonna say Miles Johnson. I don't know.
Me as a four-man, I love it.
You as
my true position.
Coach was. I always told Coach we needed to have you shoot more threes and take. He didn't want that. He wanted you strictly. I don't know. There's so many good players I coached. I coached a kid at Northeastern named Ty Mack, who was a great player. Great players. Him in junior college. Gio, Ron, Miles. Just some really, really good players I've been fortunate enough to be around. But I don't know. I'm going to put you on it, and then I'm going to take you, and then four other dudes. How's that? It doesn't matter.
I like that. That's all I need to hear. I just want to appreciate you for taking the time out your early morning. I know you're busy with all your Fairfield stuff and recruiting and just a lot of practices. So I just want to thank you, and I appreciate you for spending your time on the Jamil Warney podcast.
All right, my man. Good job. I actually might go back and listen to a couple of others now.
I want to thank you guys for viewing into the Jamil Warney podcast, and we'll be here weekly with more special guests and more funny stories. Thank you, guys.